Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was, "Thankfully, 2023 comes to a close. Will interest rates come down in 2024?" So we're going to go right to the information, the deeds. You'll see a bar chart of the deeds coming across the screen. We had 553 deeds recorded in December, less than the 579 recorded in November, 21% less than last year. Year-to-date, deeds are down 19%. You're going to see a chart of the listing of sales for each of the 27 communities in Plymouth County, from Abington to Whitman. Every community had sales. The town of Plymouth and the city of Brockton had the most sales as usual. Next bar chart you're going to see is of mortgages. Mortgages have really slowed down. When the interest rates went up, people stopped refinancing. There were only 923 mortgages recorded in December, less than the 1032 in November, 29% less than last year at this time, and year-to-date was down 36%. And clearly, the results of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates have impacted both mortgages and deeds, sales of property. We always talk about foreclosures because during the meltdown of 2008, a lot of people found themselves in difficulty. During COVID, there was a COVID moratorium on foreclosure deeds and foreclosure notices. So they're really very, very low historically. Only 8 foreclosure deeds throughout Plymouth County in December, and there were 12 in November, so you can see how low they are. But they're starting to creep up again because during COVID, there were none allowed. So it's up 32% over last year. And the other document that's important in foreclosures is the foreclosure notice. If you receive a foreclosure notice, that usually means that you're having difficulty paying your loan, whether it be a job issue or health issue. And I advise people, if they're in trouble, to reach out to a federal housing counselor as soon as possible, because there are ways they may be able to help you modify your loan. But there were 33 foreclosure notices for all of December and 43 foreclosure notices in November. 27% than last December, but 11% more than last year. And then, of course, there are a couple of things people ought to be aware of. First of all, there's a listing of foreclosure deeds and notices by community. You can see how many zeros there are because banks have not caught up. But be aware there's a free property fraud alert. Go to our website, PlymouthDeeds.org, go to resources, and you can sign up for our free property fraud alert. If something is recorded against your property, you'll get an email. And beware of all the scams out there. People trying to tell you need to pay $30, $40, $50 to get a copy of your deed when you can go right to one of our offices for $1 a page. The other thing is we've updated our transcription. We've done a project that transcriptions of the original handwritten documents are now all the way up to 1868. So people that had difficulty reading cursive, there's now a printed version of it for those records. And I have a guest coming on in the show, Michelle Cox, who is the new president of South Shore Realtors and a realtor with Jack Conway and Company in Hingham. And we'll be talking about South Shore Realtors and the current real estate market. in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds, Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we've always done something educational in nature. We've had surveyors, appraisers, real estate brokers, and of course, we've had a lot of realtors. Realtors are the people on the ground that know what is happening day to day in the real estate market. And I have a great guest today, Michelle Cox, the newly elected president of South Shore Realtors.
It's nice to be here.
And you want to tell a little bit how you got into the real estate business, Michelle?
Yes, my why for getting in the real estate business is I had a bad real estate transaction.
Okay.
And I thought, I think I could do better and connect with my clients better. And so that's really how I got in the business. And started 11 years ago.
Okay.
And then probably a couple years after I was in the business, I started volunteering at South Shore Realtors.
Great. And you're working for a well-known company, Jack Conway.
Yes, out of Hingham.
Oh, great. You want to talk a little bit about your company?
It's a great company. Carol Bowman, which is Jack's daughter, is fantastic. I do not know how she stays up on everything. She knows anybody's name when she walks into a room. It's kind of crazy. And the company itself is a great company. They really care about the realtors and go what I find beyond what they need to give us services that will help our clients.
So you've stepped up into a big role. I mean, South Shore Realtors are the second largest organization in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And you want to talk a little bit about the importance of your organization?
Well, as you said, we're the second largest in Mass. So there's a lot of things we do, different committees. Being the president of the board, I'm responsible for leading the board meetings and executive meetings. We do a lot of outreach in our committees for local, state, and even on the national level. We represent all of the South Shore, any South Shore realtor that's on the South Shore, navigate the organization's business activities to provide, and I'm also the spokesperson for the association for my term.
Great. And I know one of the things you do is do a lot of training because you need a certain amount of CEUs a year.
Yes, what you need as a realtor, you need 12 CEUs every 2 years.
Right. So let's talk about the importance of being a realtor and the fact that you follow a code of ethics.
Yes, the code of ethics is what separates licensed agents from realtors. We're required to take the code of ethics every 3 years, and it really is. It has standards that mandate that are mandated higher than law, because we want to make sure that we are ethical in the way we treat our consumers and clients.
Right.
And so it's an important part of being a realtor. If you feel someone that's another realtor is not following the way they should, there's avenues to address that. So that's an extreme important piece of being a realtor.
Yeah, I've always felt you learn a lot from organizations that you're part of. I'm an attorney, so I'm part of a couple bar associations. And as a Register of Deeds, we have a Register of Deeds Association that meets every year to set standards. So I absolutely agree that being part of an organization as a professional is extremely important.
It allows you to, reach out and network to people that you know. I've touched base. I was able to touch base with a lot of the upcoming presidents for 2024, and so that's great. You have someone to reach out. If you need, say, this is going on here. What are you experiencing? So it really is a great avenue.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful, well-recognized organization.
Yes, it is.
So let's talk a little bit about your day-to-day job, which is a realtor. And what have you seen happening over the past year?
Well, the past year has been difficult, as I'm sure you know. Inventory is still low, and then the interest rates rose a little.
Right.
And so that's kind of thrown everyone off. It seems to be picking up slightly now that we're not quite into the spring market yet, but we're getting there. So it seems to be picking up slightly. Interest rates are coming a little bit down, but people shouldn't be scared of this interest rate. It's still not that high. You know, it's higher than what anybody's grown up with here.
Yeah.
But if you remember back in the 80s, we had 18%.
I remember I had a 14% many years ago.
Yes, so
You know?
so there's a saying is in the industry, you marry your house and you date your rate.
Right.
So, you know, I encourage people to, you know, if they're looking, to continue looking. Don't let the rate, because in a couple years, you can, you know, refinance that. And you've had those couple years to gain equity in your home. So I think it's important that people don't stop looking just because of low inventory.
So I know the open houses with, 50 people have dropped off, but I do have a friend that brought his daughter around to look at some properties, and there were multiple potential buyers there. People still are looking for homes.
Yes, they still are. There's still multiple offers out there. It really depends on the area you're in. I've talked to people in the mid part of Mass, and it's just depending on the area. It's just totally different. So you are having still multiple offers, but we're also seeing more price decrease in the housing that is on the market.
Okay. Yeah, interesting for us, and I talked about it in the first segment of the show, is the average sale price for us through the last calendar year actually went up 3% around here. And I know we have very diverse communities within Plymouth County, from Hingham and Duxbury and Marion to Rockland, Brockton, and Abington, places like that. But it's still amazing to me that, other communities are seeing prices go down. Countywide, it's still gone up.
Right. Yeah, and it definitely, and again, it depends on the town.
Right.
In Hingham, they've seen an increase,
Right.
in the surrounding area. In Hull, there's been an increase. So in those surrounding beach areas, there's definitely been an increase, even though now it's slowed down.
So let's talk about what you see. I know it's hard to project where we're going to be over the next several months leading into the spring market.
You're right, it's hard to project, but it looks like the Fed is going to decrease interest rates, which always takes a while to affect the mortgage industry. But if that happens, then we expect mortgage rates to decrease further. So I think that will encourage people to also get into the market.
So it's a different marketplace. We both know that. What would your advice be to someone watching this show that is looking to get into the housing market and be a buyer? What can they do to prepare?
They want to have all their ducks in order, so they want to get a pre-approval. They want to, if they don't have a personal referral for a realtor, interview realtors and make sure that there's a correct fit there and that they're going to put your best interests, in their mind, that you're a client for them. And just go out there and start looking.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait, because you never know. You might get on that one property that there's nobody really looking at.
Mm-hmm. So potential sellers, as we know, have been reluctant to make a move because many people have no loan or have a very low loan from previous times. They're afraid if they make a move, they may go to higher interest rates. But if somebody's looking to be a seller in the next 6 months, what kind of things do you advise them to do?
I would get with a realtor right away, and so they can review your house and see where improvements can be made, like declutter, or if there's something that needs to be fixed. That's the first thing. So you have that time to get it ready to be put on the market.
if you're a first-time home buyer out there considering the value of a home and building equity and all the things that go along with it, what is your advice to a first-time home buyer?
Um, just, to be out there, to look, to do what, you can and not hesitate because the interest rates are higher now, but to continue to look and buy. Don't wait. Real estate is known to just increase. There may be ebbs and flows, but over the years, it's the one thing that's always increased in value. So don't wait, because in a couple years, and we saw that with COVID,
Yeah.
People that got in right before COVID hit, it was great, and then COVID hit, and then people went crazy, and the market went crazy, and so those people that were waiting
Right.
now are looking at more expensive homes.
Yeah. It's always been interesting to me, the real estate cycles. I've been around for a while, so I've been through a number of cycles, including the tremendous 2003 period when people were, buying homes with not necessarily good loans. The
Correct.
result of that in 2007 and 8 with
Eight.
the foreclosures. COVID, the COVID years were incredible ramp up in sales
Yes.
and mortgages only a couple of years ago. And all of a sudden this year, this past year, 2023, everything really got tight.
Yes.
So, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we just all have to be prepared for different cycles.
Right. And there's going to be, just like in the stock market and other things, but
Right.
the one thing with real estate, it always has creeped up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes longer than others, but it's always increased in value over the years.
So how do people generally contact and find you as a realtor?
As South Shore Realtors?
No, you individually.
Oh, my name's Michelle Cox. I work
Yeah.
at Jack Conway Hingham. I have a website.
How do you get most of your customers?
Through referrals and people I talk to, just going around networking.
Right. So the whole world of being a realtor has changed in your 11 years,
Yes.
and the technology is incredibly different than it was, when I practiced law. And it is amazing to me how fast it moves from the reviewing of the signing of documents to every part of it. What have you seen in your time as a realtor?
It's true. The closings are much faster. It seems attorneys can do it in a much faster pace. And that's really, the timeline has been, it just decreased from the time you put in the offer until you actually close.
Yeah. And that all goes in over the internet?
So it's made buyers and sellers more aware. They're able to go on the internet and look at different things. Or what we have, the multiple listing service, has gone from a book to an actual online service that is there for brokers, realtors to look at. And what it really helps us, we're trained to look at the backside data and to be able to interpret that for our clients.
So a last pitch as to why everyone should be a member of, that is, a realtor should be a member of the South Shore Realtors.
One, the code of ethics. You're guaranteed to work with other professionals, and the association, the advantages and benefits you get with the association. There's a lot of different discounts. There's places you can go to speak. We have a forum that's online that if anyone has a question, they can type in a question there and they get answers from anybody that's in the South Shore Realtors. So it's really a great association.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I wish you a successful 2024.
Thank you.
We hope we have a little more activity at the registry.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Obviously, you love your job and you enjoy, your participation in your organization, and that's great.
Yes, thank
Thank you
you.
for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to the Registered Report. I want to thank Michelle Cox for the great job she did in her new role as president of South Shore Realtors, describing the organization, the importance of being a realtor, and a little difficult prognostication about our year ahead. So thank again for Michelle's help on that. In this segment of the show, we always do something lighter in nature. We talk about some of our county and colony history. So our notable records for the month begin with the Liberty Tree. We try to connect them to the holidays this month as the Martin Luther King Day holiday. And the Liberty Tree was a site in Brockton around which people that were escaping on the Underground Railroad, escaping slavery, would come to meet people that would take them on their way, help them primarily escape to Canada. The owner of the property was a man named Edward Bennett, and he had a barn on this property. It is now known as Frederick Douglass Way, but it was always a main street in downtown Brockton. And there was an old sycamore tree there that people would see as a landmark and gather together. It is a very important site, and that's why it was renamed Frederick Douglass Way, and the tree was damaged, but there's a plaque on the site, and they're regrowing that tree on the site. The second one is another very recognizable site. This month had a milk promotion holiday. There's a skim milk bridge, and it's on the line of Bridgewater and West Bridgewater. It was a roadway discontinued by the county commissioners in 1875. It spans the town river near what is old Maple Street, and it is a dry stone constructed bridge, and it's a very interesting place to visit. If you go along Old Maple Street, you can park your car and walk over to this skim milk bridge. It is part of the Hasiotos Mass Wildlife Trail, and it's part of the Bay Circuit Trail, but it's kind of an interesting piece of a different era when things were different. And the reason it was called the Skim Milk Bridge is because the way the water rushed through that area, the fine white silt would bubble up and it looked like skimmed milk. So the next notable record we have, we always try to promote some of our great resources in Plymouth County. It is the Albert Norris Reservation, which is in Norwell. It's property that leads down to the North River. There's a big parking spot for you to park there near Norwell Center. It was a gift donated to the town, to the trustees of reservations, rather, in honor of her late husband, Alfred, who was a World War II veteran and served in the Navy. And when Alfred died, all those parcels were combined, and it is a great place to walk children through for the ecology of the area. Eleanor had been a first grade teacher who taught in Hanson. It's 100 acres of very tranquil property under the ownership and management of the trustees of reservation. And last but not least, since the Plymouth 400 celebration of the Plymouth 400, we've been promoting some of the Plymouth colony history. In this particular one, there's a number of things we're talking about. One is the ban on horse racing. If you raced horses, you would be fined or put in the stocks for an hour. If you, if you, your animals tread on other people's property, if you didn't collect them after you were notified, the people whose property you trampled on could sell those animals and use the proceeds from that to pay their damages, and surplus would go back to you. It's just a sign of the way things were treated at that time. And our colonial records are fascinating. We have them on the second floor of the Registry of Deeds in our Plymouth Colony Room, and they're on display the last Friday of every month, which will be January 30th. So I want to thank PAC TV for the job they do in letting us share our information. We're into a new year. Hopefully the new year generates a lot more real estate activity than 2023 did. But either way, we'll be following it with you every month, along with the assistance of PAC TV. Thank you. We'll see you next month.